Hey there, how you doing? And welcome to the Beard Signal. I'm JP Dunphy, and today we'll be diving into the question that might sound extreme on the surface, but as we pull back the curtain, you'll see it demands some serious attention. All right, I made a short earlier today literally about this and how there's been an entire thing about how Trump is basically the new Hitler, and frankly, I think it's a little too extreme to say that on its face, but there are lots of parallels which I want to go over in this and kind of break this down a little bit more and pay attention to exactly what is behind this, just because some people take it too far and they say he is the new Hitler, which is something frankly no one should ever do. Hitler had some insane atrocities that should never even be, put in the same mouth as something that Trump is doing in this moment. There are parallels, which I'll go over in this entire thing. That's the whole thing. But the bottom line, especially in terms of his second term here, is Trump following Hitler's playbook in his second term ambitions? Before we go any further, let's just be completely clear. Donald Trump is not Adolf Hitler. This episode isn't about equating their deeds or suggesting that history is repeating itself verbatim, but it may very well be rhyming. Because history doesn't repeat itself with jackboots and swastikas, it repeats with chants, executive orders, or legal loopholes. So let's just take a somber look at the disturbing parallels between the fascism rise then and the authoritarianism trends now. So today, I'm going to unpack Hitler's strategy for power, Trump's playbook in motion, and what we have to do to stop history from kind of slipping towards that kind of darkness again. So let's just jump in. First of all, we're going to start back in Germany, 1930, all right? A national economic devastation that was basically the entire German country was just completely humiliated by World War I reparations and politically fragmented from that point on. The Weimar Republic was weak, and extremists on both sides were gaining traction. But Nazis, led by Adolf Hitler, understood something that the others just didn't. People didn't just want policies, they wanted identity, order, and someone to blame. So, Hitler capitalized on a mix of economic fear, nationalism, and scapegoating. He basically targeted Jews, communists, and intellectuals, and anyone that he could paint as an enemy within. But he promised to make Germany great again. Using a platform of lies, emotion, and spectacle, Hitler basically convinced a desperate public to trade freedom for order. He didn't seize power by force. He was actually appointed chancellor in 1933, and then just weeks later, the Reichstag fire happened, and he basically used that to execute the passage of the Enabling Act, which granted him basically near total authority. All right, democracy didn't collapse in Germany with a coup. It basically voted itself out of existence. So a key to Hitler's whole success was his command of propaganda. So, oh God, what was his name? Joseph Goebbels? I apologize, I'm blanking on I think it's Goebbels. He wasn't exactly a spin doctor, but he was like a narrative engineer, all right? And through state-controlled media and posters, films, and rallies, the Nazis basically created a unified alternate reality, and it was mass persuasion weaponized, all right? Now compare that to Trump's media ecosystem, Fox News, True Social, and far-right influencers, and basically an army of bots created to create a feedback loop of disinformation. So it's not just a spin, it's reality distortion. And both Trump and Hitler understood that the power of repetition. And tell a big lie enough, often enough, people will start to believe it. Say, for instance, the election was stolen. The media is the enemy of the people, or only I can fix it. These phrases aren't just campaign slogans. They're tools of authoritarian control. One of the more chilling parallels between that and today is Project 2025. It's a blueprint that was created by Trump-aligned conservatives think tanks to basically reshape the federal government, and this document proposes things like purging civil servants and replacing them with loyalists, eliminating independent federal agencies, giving the president direct control over law enforcement, and weakening checks from Congress and the courts. It's essentially a legal enabling act. So Just like Hitler used the Reichstag fire to consolidate power for himself, Project 2025 is designed to dismantle democratic safeguards from within the law. So it's the administrative state rewritten to serve one man. And what makes it dangerous isn't that it's not secret. It's published online, all right? So it's being planned in broad daylight. And the thing is, leading up to his actual run, they published Project 2025, and everyone across the board, I can't remember what the actual thing was, but something like 80% literally said, we don't like this across political lines. And yet that's exactly what's being enacted now. Yet no one says anything. Not to mention, most of its writers are actually in his cabinet right now. So you can't even sit there and say, well, it's not really. No, it's 100% what's happening. Basically, page for page, word for word, going through exactly as it was in Project 2025. I mean, if you want, I can make an entire episode on that alone. But scapegoating is just a classic authoritarian tactic. For Hitler, it was Jews, Roma, and communists. For Trump, it's immigrants, Muslims, and black voters in swing states, trans people, and the radical left. You know, and he labels his dissenters as vermin, calls journalists the enemy of the people, and brands political rivals as traitors and criminals. This language isn't random, it's dehumanizing. And you might be asking, why does that matter? Because dehumanization is how societies justify violence, all right? And that's not to say that people on the left aren't violent, but they're not even on the same plane. You can't even say that left radicals versus right radicals are somehow on the same platform in terms of violence. Like it's overwhelmingly right-leaning people that are violent in this country. You don't even need to take my word for it. It's all across. It's all across it, and that's all across anyone that actually studies this stuff. They'll tell you that, basically single white men are much more geared towards violence than any other group in this country. So, you know, let's just talk about violence for a second, like not just state-sanctioned war, but like political violence. Nazis basically used the SA or brown shirts as their street enforcers. They attacked Jews, socialists, and anyone who resisted. It was unofficial, but it was encouraged. So Hitler denied involvement while quietly cheering it on. Again, does this sound familiar? Because look at January 6, 2021. Trump didn't tell anyone to kill, but he spent months in flaming rage about it. Stand back and stand by, he told the Proud Boys. Invited people to DC with "Will be wild," and then he sat back and let the chaos erupt. And now, many who stormed the Capitol have become martyrs to the MAGA base. Trump basically promised to pardon them. He called them hostages, and when political violence is rewarded, it becomes a tool. So, and again, as I said in a short that I posted earlier today, there is a history of this thing. So when 1933, when Hitler was, voted in as chancellor, the first thing he did was pardon some 8,000 violent offenders, most of whom were part of his initial failed coup. Does this sound familiar? All right. And again, it's not meant to be like, again, not saying Trump is Hitler, but the parallels are beyond there. All right. So the main question you might be asking is, what do we do now? So we study history, not just to remember, but to act. Democracies don't survive by accident. They require effort, vigilance, and courage. And you need to speak up when even if it's uncomfortable, call out propaganda. You support local journalism, vote in every election, not just presidential ones. Help educate others who might be falling into extremist rabbit holes. You organize, join progressive causes that fight against this kind of BS. Show up at school board meetings, demand digital accountability from tech platforms. All of the above, believe me that this country can be better than its darkest impulses. So we've been here before. Let's just not go there again, is the bottom line. History, they say history repeats itself, but it doesn't have to, is the point. You learn from history, and that's what we're saying here. So before we this, because I don't want this to be some long-winded thing, I want this to be something you can just dissolve into yourself on a relatively quick basis, is there is a final thread that must be unraveled, and because it's one of the most insidious and least understood elements of this authoritarian drift, it's called Christian nationalism. So let's be clear, it's not about Christianity as a faith. I'm talking about the political ideology that uses the veneer of Christianity to justify undemocratic power grabs, suppress civil rights, and silence dissent. Now, this is not new. In Nazi Germany, Hitler understood the power of religious symbolism. He promoted a version of positive Christianity stripped from its Jewish roots and social justice teachings. So the goal wasn't worship, it was control. And now look at it in America in 2025. We're watching churches turn into campaign stops, sermons declaring that Trump was chosen by God, religious leaders that calling for a spiritual warfare, told that Democrats are demonic. All right, this isn't faith, it's fascism wrapped in a scripture. Christian nationalism demands loyalty, not to God, but to a party. It demonizes outsiders, it justifies bigotry, patriarchy, and censorship as divine mandate. And Trump, he's not a messiah. He is a political idol, worshipped not for his virtue, but for his vengeance. All right, true faith is supposed to resist tyranny. It defends the vulnerable. It doesn't anoint kings, it challenges them. So, again, I just wanted to do a longer form kind of breakdown of this without getting into too much detail, but this is more than enough for people to kind of take in and just honestly think about, because I know history. I was kind of crap at it at school. Military history, especially, that kind of brings me into things like World War I and World War II. I love military history, and one of the things of that is Nazis. So I know a lot about this because of my love of history of this. And I just want to say on that, thank you for joining me today. I know this episode was a little bit heavy, and these are heavy times. You know, it's not to panic. It's about preparation. It's not about hysteria, but historical memory. A lot of people like to tune out of politics right now, but we're standing at a crossroads, and one direction leads toward accountability, democracy, and progress. And the other one is a slow, smiling descent into authoritarian rule. And it's cloaked in patriotism and divine sanction. All right, let's choose the first road and let's walk it together. All right. I believe in this country. I was raised to think America was the best. And frankly, it's really hard to see where that is with the state of things we are now. We're more isolated than ever before. Nothing great is happening, you know, and normal American families like mine are struggling right now. You know, people are losing their jobs left and right. There's no way you can look at America right now and say we're doing fantastically, because we're not. And all I can say is we can be better. We can. It's not outside of our nature to be better. The hate has to stop. All right? No one gets far in life driven by hate or fear. We're human beings, every single one of us, and we can walk it together. Don't become the next version of a jihadist. Don't become the next version of these people that you pretend to hate, because you're slowly becoming them if you are supporting this kind of stuff. So that's my signal today. All right. Thanks for watching. If you caught this on YouTube, if you're listening to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, thank you for listening. Again, I don't want to make this one too long for you, and I just wanted to get this out there while it's still fresh in my head, and to say, I'm JP Dunphy. This has been the Beard Signal. Until next time, stay aware, stay vocal, and never stop asking hard questions. All right? Politicians are supposed to work for us, not us for them. All right? Just remember that next time you vote. Your politician is supposed to be doing things for you. And if you're sitting there telling yourself, I'm being hurt right now, but it's going to be okay later, that's never supposed to be how it works. It's supposed to be for you. That's why I want to go into politics myself, because I want to work for my people. Not my donors, not anything, literally small dollar donations that get me into office. That's what I'm going to work for, because those are the reasons that I'm there. I'm not there for money. I'm not there for fame. This is a public service announcement on my end. So keep the signal strong and just let people know it's okay to talk out about this. It's when you stop that everything goes to shit. Don't let it go to shit. Make this country better, but do it the right way. All right? Keep the signal strong again. I'm JP Dunphy. Till next time. We got a great week coming up. Again, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Leave some comments. Let me know what you think of the show so far. I've been putting out a lot of episodes. I apologize for kind of swaying toward the political side of things, but again, I'm only touching on them because they're things that affect families. They're things that affect tech, the things that I love in life. It's affecting us in a bad way. And I feel like it just needs to be talked about. And people need to understand why it's happening. And not through MSNBC, CNN, or Fox News, or One American News Network, whatever it is. They're political arms here. I'm trying to give you an actual thing without being an asshole about it. I'm trying to just tell you what's happening and how you can help yourself and how you can help the rest of the country in a way that's not political. Helps everyone around us. We are a social society. Let's be social. Everyone out there is a brother and sister. Please, hate doesn't get you anywhere. Love does. And that's the hippie in me saying that. Love gets you more places than hate. And that, frankly, that is the Christian way. I'm not even Christian, but that is the Christian way. All right? If you don't believe me, read your own scriptures. Have a wonderful rest of your day.